Hey there, Shane Thompson, doing my week 12, I believe, roundup. This week, there's not a lot to see as far as games played goes. Uh, Almost every team plays 3 games, and there's about maybe 10 or so that play 2 games. But in general, it's a pretty average week. So I'm not going to focus too much on that this week. I'm more worried about that in weeks where there's teams with 2 games and 4 games. But if you're getting a range of 1 game between each team, I mean, it's not a big deal. So that means you can kind of go for the better players this week. And then, if you get a player that has 3 games, that's all the better. When I'm looking at my leagues here, I did most of my looking in my medium tier league, where I found more players. As you know, it was a short week last week because of Christmas, and it's going to be a few games off at the beginning of the week this week. So that's why there's only the 3 games. So you kind of do got to get value here. You got to get some points in that short burst of time. It might be a week that you want to look for guys that play early in the week and play them early, and then swap out for guys that play later in the week. Guys I noticed that were in the higher ownership level that should have an eye on them at least. Tyler Johnson at 47%. He's back to playing well and getting lots of minutes again. 20 minutes and 22 minutes in his last 2 games, and he's on a real super hot streak here. So super hot streak, Tampa Bay Lightning, I mean, what's not to like? And he's definitely got 3 games next week with a 28, 29, and 31 there. So he's playing 3 games before New Year. So he's absolutely, if he's available, you got to ride him while he's hot. He's not available in this league, but I just noticed that he is only at 47%. He should be way above 47%. He's on a nice solid pace here of about 50 points maybe. And he had a cold start to the year, so that's a good start. Zach Parise is coming off injury pretty soon. It looks like he's starting to ramp up his work. Now, he got dropped in this league. Actually, no, he didn't. He's on IR. Some leagues he would have been dropped. I mean, he's only 41% owned. I'm not a huge Zach Parise fan. Over the years, I've drafted him a lot and gotten nothing much from him, I found. Like 42 points last year is fine, but he's just a very ho-hum player. If you in a deeper league, absolutely he's worth having. But I just don't expect Zach Parise to ever go back to being the 70-point, like 30-goal guy he once was. I just don't think he's that player anymore. He's definitely an injury risk at all times. Not really into him. Other guys I was looking at this week. Oh, another IR guy coming back, and only 46% owned. Ryan Ellis. So he's a player I love. He's another one of those guys in Nashville that they just seem to coach up. And I mean, he hasn't even been coached up that much. He's a first-round pick. But he's a very valuable player. Last year, 38 points, plus 17, tons of blocks. Just solid. He's just solid in every way. He's just one of those defensemen on a good team that you can just trust. He's going to get solid pace. They're going to play him the right amount of time. His plus minus, if you're in a league with plus minus, is going to be solid with Nashville. And I don't see any reason why his role will be diminished. He might struggle at the beginning when he comes back. It's definitely something to watch with NHL players coming back from injury, is that they struggle right at the beginning. So you might not want him right at the beginning when he comes back, but if you wait, you're not going to get him. What you could do is, if he's on IR right now, you could drop a guy, put him on your team right now while he's still hurt, and just leave him in IR spot as long as possible until you need to make other moves. And then when you see he starts to heat up a little bit, pop him back in your lineup. It's a little sneaky move maybe, but I like doing that kind of stuff. Another guy, Brandon Montour, I keep mentioning him. He's still doing great. And he is still, getting all those points that you would hope from him. He's no fluke, this guy. He's a massive scorer in the AHL when he played in the AHL. He's had a few... he got a healthy scratch recently, but that's more of his defensive play. And in fantasy, you're not that worried about defensive play. and he had his first game back after the benching. He had 8 shots on goal. So I mean, come on now, 8 shots on goal from any defenseman, and he's a nice young defenseman. He's absolutely should be owned in more leagues, and he's gonna be a consistent scorer in that system. A lot like Ryan Ellis. He might even put up similar numbers to what Ryan Ellis put up last year, around 40 points. I could see very easily. So if he's not owned in your league, I don't see any reason why he's not owned. He is what he is. He's gonna be good the rest of the way through. This is a guy that I drafted, and he was horrible at the beginning of the year. But you know what? I still have faith in him, and I still believe that he's the guy in Nashville. Definitely next year. Now, I said that last year as well. But I think he's the kind of guy, if you're in a keeper league and you're in a deep or dynasty league, obviously, you need to own him, because you can't be goalies like this who have this kind of pedigree in this kind of system with a team that like absolutely could be a perennial, definitely playoff team. But look, we're even looking at a couple years in a row here of them being top playoff cup contenders. So Nashville is just a good team, and they're a really good organization, it looks like. So you want to own this guy, especially in a keeper where he could have value next year. So he's just a guy that if you're in a deeper league, if you're in a keeper league, it's tough to get keeper goalies a lot of the time that are worth keeping. Like, I like to keep my keepers that were drafted later. A lot of my leagues operate by where they were drafted, and then they move up a spot. So you're not going to want to keep first-round goalies, because that means you're not going to get your first-round pick a lot of the time. So he's just he's a nice flyer to take, a risky pickup to make, and he got 2 starts in a row. He didn't get 2 starts in a row. He took over for Rene on the 21st, shut him down when he came in. He played poor the next game when he got another start, but you can see he's starting to get more consistent starts here. He's had, out of those 7 games or 8 games, he's played 4. So, and had really good performances in 3 of them. So, you know what? They've got a back-to-back on the 29th and 30th. I almost guarantee he plays one of those games and will give you value in that one game. And there's potential here that if he has another shutout or a really good performance, they could start giving him a half share of the games in Nashville. And that's huge value. Even just half the games would be massive value, because I think he's going to get a lot of wins in those and positive stats. So he's a guy to be watching, and I don't think you should be waiting. I think this is the week to grab him. Mostly in deeper leagues, but you know what? I like him just pretty much anywhere. I'm a big fan of Saros, have been for years, and I trust that he's going to be a really good goalie. And I also believe that Rene's got to be on the downswing. I'm not a believer in Rene. I kind of think he's been an average goalie for a few years, and his reputation gets him through. Another guy who's been incredibly hot, and I grabbed him this week, is James Reimer in Florida. I grabbed him at the beginning of the week, and he had 3 amazing starts for me, and he won me my league, won me my week this week with his great play. He's a hot and cold goalie. As soon as he gets cold, you got to get rid of him, because he gets real cold. But Florida's playing pretty well right now. You know, they're above 500. They're not doing great, actually, but he's been amazing. And while he gets on this hot run, just ride it. And I think he's one of the guys that only has 2 games next week. So you might want to ditch him if he doesn't play well in that first game. But he's worth riding right now, and just absolutely be prepared to drop him pretty quick if anything goes wrong. This is deeper. Cody Ceci in Ottawa. He's a guy I really like. I think he's a good player. I think he's going to grow into a pretty solid NHL defenseman. He's already defensively responsible. And I think eventually the offense is going to come at a higher level than it is right now. He's already on pace to outdo last year. He had a really down year last year, I think. I think he could have done better than he did, actually. But you see the minutes. On the 21st there, he played 32 minutes and 54 seconds. Like, that's crazy. That's like Al McGinnis numbers back in the day, and that's like some of those Lidstrom guys like that used to play 30 minutes a game. Not a lot of guys ever do that. But he also got, if you're after periphery stats, if you're at a bangers and mash league with hits, blocks, shots on goal, things like that, he had 8 shots on goal his last game. He averages like 2 or 3 blocks a game. He's one of the top block guys in the NHL. So I like him for blocks. And also, look at the hits he's had recently, too. His hits have been off the charts with 6, 5, 2, 2, 4, 1. Like, he's solid in those kind of leagues that have hits and blocks. I kind of like him. And I think if you're in a league that counts those periphery stats, I think he's a guy to add. And I have for the whole year. His blocks make him valuable no matter what, because there's not a lot of guys who get as many blocks as he does and actually have some potential to score. He plays a little bit of power play, and he can get a few points. So, you know what? I like him in deep leagues. He's got a 3-game week, so why not go for Cody Ceci this week? Another guy in the same vein is Zadorov in Colorado. He has his spurts of being able to score, which make him really tantalizing. And he was a highly touted guy coming into Buffalo at the beginning of his career. So he's not devoid of scoring. But what really is interesting with him is his periphery stats as well. He gets a lot of hits and a solid amount of blocks as well, and even can get some penalty minutes if you have penalty minute leagues, which I do, which I'm not actually a big fan of having penalty minutes as a category, but my leagues happen to have it. He also can shoot the puck a bit. 5 shots in his last game. So with his minutes, he got 26 his last game, 22 the game before. They're starting to play him more. Seems they're starting to trust him with more of a role. And if you're in a league with those periphery stats, he's worth adding. He's not worth adding in any kind of league that is points focused. But otherwise, he does have some value in those deeper leagues. Cam Ward's being added the most of anybody this week, which is, kind of bananas to me. A lot of people are adding him right now. He's got the job, it looks like, for a little bit over Darling. Darling has not been playing well at all this year, and he's been a bit of a bust. I wasn't all in on him, but I kind of liked Darling going into the year as a cheap guy to get late, because I thought Carolina were going to be pretty good. Turns out, Darling is not as good as he looked in Chicago. So Cam Ward is now getting the play, and not doing a lot with it, in my opinion. Like, he's got the wins, he's doing all right for getting wins, but 9/11 save percentage is not impressive. That's below league average, and everybody's talking like the word is out. Oh, Cam Ward's back. Cam Ward's doing amazing. Blah blah blah. No, Cam Ward's being Cam Ward, and he's a below average goalie, and that's it. So I don't want below average save percentage goalies on my fantasy team, because that means even if he's winning, if he's getting a 9/11 save percentage, he's hurting me probably in save percentage. I want more like a 920 and be a bit above average. So people can go at him. I'm not into it. I'd prefer to add other goalies that are available. Definitely not him. I'd prefer to get Saros, who I mentioned earlier, on his occasional start. Give me a Saros on an occasional start where he goes way above average and improves my numbers and actually has potential. If there's an injury to Rinne, Saros is like must own everywhere, absolutely everywhere. So I just don't get why people are adding Cam Ward, and I'm not in. I'm absolutely not in. Let's see, Fiala there. I was going to mention him, but you know what? All I do is brag about Fiala because I traded for him in a league, and I'm a big fan. I'll just show you his points. Look at this run he's on. He's just like Tyler Johnson. He's on a serious run of points, and he's up to 26 now in the year, 10 points over his career best. So Fiala's legit. If you haven't added Fiala at this point at 43% ownage, that's insane to me. It makes no sense. He's absolutely, if you see, let's look up above there, you got Burakovsky, who is at 34% owned and has 8 points and has done nothing. Like, he hasn't been impressive at all. There's nothing special about Burakovsky. He's got a 3-point game there, but other than that, nothing else. Playing very few minutes. And then you got 43%, just 9% more. a guy like Kevin Fiala, who's high pedigree, 10th pick overall. Anyway, I never stop talking about Fiala. I love him. And if he's somehow still available in your league, you should absolutely be adding him. Brian Boyle, 10% owned. Brian Boyle. Brian Boyle's on a run. He's a big fella that stands in front of that crease and blocks goalies real well. And he's doing it well right now. He is, however, day to day, and that's the thing you got to be careful of with him. Any of those big fellas that stand in front and fight and get pucks off the legs and all that stuff are going to get hurt. He's had runs before in the past where he's looked like, man, he could be a beast because if he can get in front of the net like that and jam home rebounds, then he can put up solid totals. In a bangers and a hits league, he's got value for sure. Because he actually, so I shouldn't really say hits. I should say like a categories league where face-offs matter, multi-categories, because he does a little bit of everything. That's why he's kind of fun to have right now. He gets fights with penalty minutes. He's playing power play. He's getting points. He's getting face-offs. A little bit. His hitting's not as good as I thought, actually, but a few blocks as well. So he's interesting right now, but you see he's already hurt. So I don't know. I might ride him for a little bit, but that's about it. I'd be ready to drop him pretty quick, I'd say. Let's see, further down here. There's not a lot else that I have on this list. There's a few guys that I just want to talk about whether they're legit or not. And Barzal is one that is still 59% owned. This is another guy that I don't get why he's only 59% owned. He's got 35 points right now. He's in the top 50 in the NHL, I think, for overall points in my league here. And that doesn't even, this league is a category league. If you're in a league that values points above all else, there's no reason this guy's sitting on the waiver wire. Like, he's absolutely valuable, and 60% owned is ridiculous. He should be 85, 90% owned. He should be 100% owned at this point. There's no question. If anybody's debating, there's a stigma, I think, still with a lot of poolies who don't trust young players. But just do a little research, and you're going to see that Barzal is high-end scoring talent who is no fluke, was predicted to come out and be great. Played bad last year, but that was in a short stint and didn't really get a lot of play. This year, they put him in a role where he could score, and don't discount New York Islanders scoring. They are a team that are they're pumping goals in the net pretty easy here. And he's a big reason. I'm in a few groups where different hockey fans of different teams talk. And the Islanders fans are all saying this is the guy in Islanders. Like, Tavares is clearly amazing, but Barzal is the difference this year. Barzal's the reason that they've gone from, being just an average team to they're looking pretty good this year. They're looking pretty solid. So if Barzal, for any reason, is still available in your league, which he is in 40% of leagues, which is crazy, you got to add him. Like, absolutely, he needs to be owned in every league. There should be 100% ownership. Absolutely. Just a couple more guys here. Andrej Sekeraus is back for Edmonton. Kind of an interesting guy to add. He is another guy, kind of like Ryan Ellis, that's just solid. He's nothing spectacular with his game, but he's just solid, and he's definitely good as a bottom pairing defenseman on a fantasy team. I wouldn't expect a lot from him. Like, 35 points last year was, I think, even a little bit over what I would expect. But he doesn't do anything negative, and he, gets a lot of blocks. He's a solid defensive player. They need him right now. So he's not played great since he got back. This is a perfect example of a guy who just got back from injury and is not being himself at the beginning. But it's just 2 games, no points. So, I mean, he got 20 minutes last game. They got 3 games coming up here. He's worth adding in a deeper league and, take his positive stats and just lock him in. Another guy I noticed that's being added a lot and is only 1% owned is Ondrej Cass in Anaheim. Now, I'm sure not a lot of you have heard of him, but he's got some talent. He's not a fluke. He's already got his point total from last year eclipsed almost. He's got the same amount of points as last year. They're playing him a solid amount. And he had some solid scoring in the AHL before he came up. He was close to a point per game guy in the AHL at a young age. So Anaheim does this. Anaheim gets these guys that we had never really heard of, or they were kind of under the radar. I think he's like I forget, I checked it earlier. I think he's like a 6th round pick or something like that. Late round pick, but making them work. And whatever they do in Anaheim, their minor system is solid, and they bring up these guys, and Montour is another example. They really know how to put them in the right role, and I kind of trust their system. So I'm not saying he's going to be a 50-point guy or anything like that, but in a deeper league, if you're in a real deep league and you just want a guy who's going to put up solid, positive stats, it seems like he's solid to me. He's on a little bit of a run right now with 4 points in 3 games, so now might be the time to add him and just see how it goes. If he gets cold, then you don't feel bad dropping him, but don't discount these young guys who start performing, especially on teams like Anaheim. There's absolutely some value there. And in a dynasty, he's absolutely you must own, like absolutely must own. Because who knows, he could wind up, this could be the beginning of something special. He could turn into a 50-point guy for sure. So just keep an eye on him. I just thought he was a little bit interesting. Let's see, any more here? Not a lot that I'm seeing. I'll check out my other league quickly, but I don't think there was too much in there. Some of the deeper guys might be a little bit interesting, but I think that was most of it. Again, I'll just reiterate that this week, just add whoever you think's the best. Don't overthink it. Just add whoever you think's the best player. Don't worry about the games played. Really worry about more so the who do you believe actually has upside going forward. Martin Hanzal is just back from a lengthy injury and starting to play a little bit better for Dallas, and they need him. Like they could use him for sure. So he is worth watching, and I actually don't know if I would watch. I wouldn't mind grabbing him in a lot of leagues. He gets face-offs as well. I'm in a lot of leagues that face-offs are valuable. And he gets hits. He does a little bit of everything. Now, he is right in the same vein as Matthew Perreault, who is another guy I always seem to own in my leagues. They're two of the more injury-prone players in the NHL. So you just play him while he's gets healthy, and when he's not healthy, you drop him. Very simple. But I think he's worth looking at in deeper leagues, and while he's healthy on that Dallas team, they'll probably play him on the power play a lot, and I can see him getting a solid amount of points. This is a guy that I've liked the skill level for a while, but he hasn't done too much at all, like nothing this year. He's really disappointed this year. But Konechny in Philadelphia is now getting first-line minutes. Excuse me. So I believe he's worth keeping an eye on. This is more so deeper leagues. It's a little bit crazy to me that Cass in Anaheim is 1% owned, and then Konechny is 3% owned, and he's done nothing. Konechny's done nothing this year. He's got 10 points, but like no periphery stats, very little to offer. It's probably some dynasty league guys that own him, I guess. But he's got a high pedigree, and that first line in Philly is solid. So you never know what might happen, and it's one of those lines like Edmonton's McDavid line or Pittsburgh Crosby line or whoever. You throw some guys on the wing there, and you never know what might happen. So who knows? He's worth just keeping an eye on to see if he gets hot while he has this role. Hannafin, maybe the last guy I'll talk about, but the guy that I was in on about 2 weeks ago, and he's been fine. He's been solid for me since I've added him. He had a 3-point game 2 games ago. I think we're hitting the point of him breaking out here a little bit, and he's a super high pedigree player, one of the highest pedigree defensemen in the NHL, actually. So if somehow he's still available, which he absolutely will be, he's still there's 78% of leagues he's available in, which is crazy. He's going to get 35 points easy this year. with the potential to get 40, I think. And he's in a keeper league, man. He's absolutely hit his stride, and he's going to get better next year. So I think you're seeing the beginning of a long, strong career from Noah Hennepin. He's still not a great defensive player, but I think from a lot of the stuff I've read that he's fine-tuned that this year, and he's starting to get comfortable. And as he's gotten more comfortable, they've added his minutes, and it looks like it's paying off. So I think we're at the beginning of something pretty special from him. And look at the shot totals. 2 shots, 6, 6, 4, 2, 4. That's great from a defenseman. So he's not shying away from shooting the puck anymore. So I would start to expect better results. And I would expect at least 35 points from him this year. And I think if he's available, the way defense is in fantasy, which is, I find, one of the hardest positions to fill with guys that get 35 points, I think he's super valuable. So if you haven't added him yet, which is crazy to me, again, that he's 22% owned, I don't get what leagues these guys are in. I think he's worth adding. Absolutely worth adding. So there you go. That's it for today, I think. Just a few guys. And keep an eye on especially those guys coming off injuries. If you got a spot, why not? A guy like Parise, Sekaras, not sure who else I mentioned, but there's a few other guys there that coming off injuries, maybe off some people's radars. Grab them, and you can even keep them on your IR for a little bit and let them get off their cold streak when they come off the injury, and then put them in your lineup when you feel like they're getting off of it. Anyway, good luck with this week, guys, and I hope this helps a few people. And please comment if there's anything that you notice that you don't agree with or do agree with, or if you just want to say, hey, what's up? Appreciate all people that are watching. I know the hockey fantasy group is not as large as the other sports, but you know what? I like it just as much as all the other fantasies, and it's the one I feel like I like the best, actually. So hope a few of you agree out there and enjoy what you're getting from me. Peace out.